Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thank you all for coming here. Um, like usual, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the chat. For anyone watching afterwards, again, any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comments. I'll get to them when I can. So, today we're going to talk about the primaries. They just happened on the 4th. So it's been a little bit, but Jack Bergman, Callie Barr, congratulations. They have won their primary. Another winner is Abdul Al-Sayed. He won the Democratic primary for the Senate. So we now know who is going to be in the general for the major parties. There are a few minor parties that I saw on the ballot. I'm not going to go over them a whole lot right now. I might get to them at a later time. We're not sure. But we're going to talk about candidates. We're going to talk about the election on its own as a whole and kind of just go from there. So let's start with why I decided to run in the first place. All right, we're going to have to go back to 2024, last election cycle. I was researching what my options were for Congress. Who was I voting for? My options were Callie Barr or Jack Bergman. Very similar to this time. And what I found didn't really impress me. Right? There was a lot of acknowledgement of problems. I understand the problem. I hear the problem. But there wasn't a lot of conversation of how to handle the problem. And I understand the problem is not a governing philosophy, right? I want to know what you're actually proposing. What's it going to cost? How are you going to accomplish it? What are you going to do if the plan fails? I want solutions over acknowledgement. And eventually the question became, if I don't like these choices that I'm seeing, am I just going to sit here and complain about them? Or am I actually going to do something about it? So that is about the time when I decided that I was interested in running for Congress. Now, that's not to say that Jack and Callie are bad people, right? Everyone running for Congress, and I can say that with confidence, everyone running for Congress does want what is best for the people of this country. There might be some people who also want to get something out of it, right? But as I would like to say this, that most people running for Congress want to do what's best. I just do not think that Jack nor Callie are what I am looking for in a representative for many reasons, but I'm not going to get into them right now. Today we're going to talk about myself. So that's really what brought me to run for Congress. Is I wanted a better option. And since there wasn't any, I decided to be my own better option. So here we are. Now, I'm running as an independent. Whether or not you knew that, you do now. And let's talk about why that matters. Why should voters consider an independent as a valid option, right? So my biggest benefits of being independent is that I am completely disconnected from any national party leadership, right? So there is nothing tying me down to the decisions of the Republicans or the Democrats. I have the freedom to agree with Republicans and the freedom to agree with the Democrats when they are right, and I have the freedom to disagree with both of them if they are wrong. I have no obligation to defend something simply because my side did it. My responsibility is to the district itself. It has nothing to do with maintaining loyalty to a political team or anything like that. Being an independent allows me to be what the name implies, truly independent of any sort of party leadership. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of that. One of the concerns I hear a lot about myself being an independent is the concern of me stealing votes from another candidate. And I want to be completely clear here. Votes cannot be stolen. They have to be earned. And a voter's vote does not belong to the Republican Party, to the Democratic Party, or even to me. If someone chooses me instead of Jack or Kelly, they made that choice. That is their choice, and no one can take that from them. And if other candidates are worried about losing their voters, the appropriate response is to ask them what they can do to earn them. What can you do to earn those votes? Because there are no owed votes. They are earned. And if people decide that I am the better candidate because of my policies, because of my transparency, my independence, my optimism, or even my approach to government, then I earned those votes. It is not stolen. It is not taken. And the congressional seat is not owned by Republicans or Democrats or the incumbent or donors even. It's owned by the people of Michigan's 1st District. It is for them to decide who sits in that seat. And if they think that I'm the best candidate to do so, then that is their will, and that will be the way. And I don't want to gloss over the issue, though, because the core issue still exists, right? We currently have a system where it's winner take all. That is how the system is. And it is completely rational to be concerned about myself or other small parties, taking votes. Not taking votes, but a vote for us is a vote that someone else won't get. But that is not the fault of the candidates. That is the fault of the system. And I truly do think we need to change our system right now. Because right now we have, like I said, winner take all. And we could easily change this system to where you don't have to be afraid to vote for who you want. Right? That system is ranked choice voting. There is a push in Michigan right now to get that on the ballot, I believe, for the next election cycle. That won't be on the ballot this cycle. But there is a push to get that through, and I think it's a great idea and a great way to make it so that we don't have to vote from fear. We can vote from who we want and who we truly appreciate to run for us. Now, another question I get: can an independent actually win? My answer is this: absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that an independent can win. The task, though, right, is earning enough votes from people across the political spectrum. That means my goal is to get votes from Republicans, from Democrats, from independents, from people who normally do not feel represented. And no, we're never going to all agree on one thing. Sorry. We're not all going to agree on everything. Mix that up. There are things that we will all agree on. And there are other things that we may have different perspectives. That is normal. That is completely natural. And I am very open to having conversations about those differences, right? But I think there are enough things that we all can agree on that we can truly get things done and progress in our society. Now, again, can an independent actually win? Another reason why I think the answer is yes to that is our country is hungry for political change. There is so much distrust and dissatisfaction, and it's not just confined to one party. And I'm saying this because I believe this personally as well. Like, I am dissatisfied. I have lost trust in the government, in the two-party system especially. There's so many broken promises, so much political dishonesty, you know? You see party loyalty over loyalty to the public. People feel ignored. One of the biggest issues we have here in the 1st District is that Jack Bergman, our current representative, doesn't host town halls, you know? So that being ignored is very real here. Yes. No, I appreciate that, Tyler. I think an independent can make a lot of change. It really has the potential. Okay, let's see here. Yeah. So I think the country really is ready for something different. And a lot of people are feeling that way. They're feeling frustrated. They're feeling sick of what we currently have, and they're ready for something different. They're ready for change. Now, I want to talk a little bit about accountability and transparency. If a Republican does something wrong, we should say so. If a Democrat does something wrong, we should say so. If an independent like myself does something wrong, the standard should still hold, right? Political identity should never become an excuse for defending behavior you would condemn from the other side. And I think it's super easy to lose track of your internal bias, and I have found myself guilty of this as well. We all have biases. And being aware of that bias, understanding where it comes from, and understanding how it is affecting your decisions and your mindset on certain things is crucial. And, I just had a talk with my friend, and we were talking about politics a little bit, and we come from opposite sides of the political spectrum. Like, we grew up in very different households, and like, we both have realized that, it's something that we're both frustrated about, because we've noticed this internal, like, political bias that initially you hear something and you have an initial reaction. Like, that there is something that is very crucial to be aware of at the very least. Because if you're aware of it, you can control it, you can rationalize it, you can understand it, move on from there. Now, being an independent, right, does not mean that I'm always going to be in the middle when it comes to choosing policy, right? If I'm elected as an independent, doesn't mean I'm going to just be the middle ground all the time. Sometimes Republicans are going to have the better idea. Sometimes Democrats will. Sometimes both sides are going to be wrong. And as an independent, I have the ability to take that stance. And, other times, sometimes your own idea should change because someone has a better evidence or a better idea. And being willing to change, being willing to, shift is a strength. That is 100% a strength. The inability to change is not strength. That is a weakness in my mind. And compromise is useful when it produces a better solution, but compromise for its own sake is not the goal, right? You compromise when you're trying to find a better outcome. Now, what my campaign is offering is transparency. It's independence. It's solutions rather than just description of the problem. On my website, if you have looked at it before, I have a lot on there that you can look at. I've got a very long list of things I support, things I don't. A lot of them have to do specifically with solving a certain problem. And if there's a problem on there that you don't think that I have addressed, feel free to reach out. I am very open to adding to that list of things that I support, things that I don't, and ideas that I want to see. I am very optimistic about the future, about technology, energy, education, and healthcare. Like, I have such high hopes for the future of this country. I think we're truly capable of amazing things. And, you know, that optimism is important because for longer than I know, modern campaigning it's all been based on fear. You know, vote for me because imagine what happens if they win. Or, you know, vote for me because you don't want this certain thing or you don't like this person. I want to vote for someone because it excites me. You know, their vision for the future is exciting. Because they're making promises that they can back up and that will improve our lives. That's what I want. And transparency, right? Saying how you're going to do something, that is transparency. Showing what you're doing actively, that is transparency. That is incredibly important to me. Honesty and transparency both. Let's see here. And like, optimism is great. Criticism also has its place. But the campaign really should give something, you know, positive to look forward to. All right, I want to go back a little bit to voting a little bit. So I know I talked a bit about how a vote cannot be stolen. It is earned, right? And a sincere vote is not wasted. Voting for your preferred candidate is a legitimate exercise of political power. It is your ability, your right to speak and to use your right to vote however you wish. And a protest vote is also like a completely legitimate way to use that power. Now, refusing to reward a candidate who has not earned your support, it is legitimate. And anyone who says differently wants something from it. I see a comment. Do you have a plan on how to encourage people to change their mind once they have more information? People take a stance and don't change. Why do you think people are so headstrong and unwilling? That's a great question. Yeah, honestly, there are a lot of people that are unwilling to change how they've done things. You know, they are set in their ways and they will not move from it. And it will be hard. It is incredibly difficult to change those people's minds. And the only thing I can do is do my best to convince them that I am worth it to take the chance on, and do my best to earn their vote. You know, and a big part of it is, making sure they're informed, making sure that they understand where I stand on things, making sure they know the differences between me and the other candidates, helping them just be educated, understand who the candidates are, what they stand for, what they believe in, etc. Because I think, there's a lot there. But thank you for your question. Okay. So what is it going to mean if we win? Right? What does success mean? Obviously, the goal is to win. The goal is to put myself, an independent, in the seat of Congress. And I think that would be a huge victory for multiple reasons. First, I would be able to represent this district. And that, on its own, is a huge victory. But it would also have side effects. Because there's a broader effect that would take place. It would send a message. It would demonstrate that voters don't have to accept the typical two-party choice, right? They don't have to pick between the classic two options. They don't have to pick the better of two evils. They don't have to take, the other candidate of what they fear. If I win, it will really send a message that people are ready for change and they want something different. But that isn't the main goal. The main goal is for me to represent the people of this district. Let's see. Another thing is that if I win, a serious independent campaign and a candidate can really force issues that have been neglected into the conversation. And it will make political competition healthier. Right now, it feels like we have a monopoly. And for a country who likes capitalism so much, it shocks me that we allow monopolization within our politics. And we only have two main parties who control everything. That in itself is unhealthy. And we know why. And so it would be amazing to start the shift, get changes done. I would love to see that. It would be amazing. Now, change only happens, though, when people believe it can. And the two-party system feels permanent because it has dominated for so long, right? It's the only thing that we've known. Since I was born, it's the only thing I knew. There were other candidates on the ballot, but they never really were taken seriously. And I think part of that is the fault of the third parties in a way. And I mean this with no disrespect, but to me, it feels like third parties, for the most part, want their name recognized more than wanting to elect someone. And that might be a hot take. It might be just me spouting off nonsense, but that's what it feels to me as an outsider. Again, I'm not a part of a third party, so I don't know what it's like on the inside, but that's what it feels to me. So, let's see here. I was talking about the two-party system. Yeah, it feels permanent, but political systems are created and maintained by the people. we allow it to exist like this, and we have the ability to change it. Voters are ultimately the people who decide who represents them. And we can decide that we don't want to partake of this two-party system anymore. So the question isn't simply, can an independent win? The more interesting question is, what happens when enough people stop believing they only have two choices? So, yeah. I would love to see a future in where we no longer have a simple two-party system, winner-takes-all voting system. I think it would be incredible to see a future that, where that is different, where that changes. But it will be a while until that happens. Because even if I win this election, it won't change things overnight. It is going, I see things shifting already, but things won't change completely right off the bat. If I get elected, it will be the start to something. It will be the beginning of change. And that excites me. That truly does excite me. Are there any questions? I am kind of closing on what I had that I wanted to bring up. So if there are more questions, feel free to ask them. I'm more than happy to answer. But if there are no more questions, I'll probably wrap up. And again, thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out. I will be doing more of these. I host them every other week, every other Wednesday. And I'm more than happy to have conversations. If people want to ask questions in person, I am open to that. You'll have to join my Discord. I think that'll be the easiest way to do so. We can just drag you in and out of the voice channel, and you can easily ask questions during stream. Otherwise, text, using the chat function to ask questions that way is perfectly fine as well. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, then I'm going to wrap up. I appreciate it, and thank you all for being here. And yeah, cool. Doesn't look like there's any more questions, so I'll just go ahead and wrap up, and I look forward to seeing everyone 2 weeks from now at the next one. If you're not there, it's okay. I will continue to do them no matter what, because I want to be available. That's just how I wish to run things. So, have a good evening, everyone, and